All right, welcome back to the channel. We're going to talk about some of the little men in boxing today, specifically in the 126-pound division. Josh Warrington and Shakur Stevenson are having some issues with one another, and specifically Shakur Stevenson is very disappointed in Josh Warrington for ducking him. Let's talk about that in this video. Josh Warrington and Shakur Stevenson are two of the better fighters in the 126-pound division. Josh Warrington is the IBF 126-pound champion. Shakur Stevenson is the WBO 126-pound champion. And Shakur Stevenson is pushing to try to get a fight with Josh Warrington. Now, Shakur Stevenson is represented by Top Rank and with the manager of Andre Ward, definitely future Hall of Famer if he's not already in the Hall of Fame. Fighter, one of the best fighters of this century. And he's also trained by managed by James Prince out of the state of the great state of Texas and the great state of Houston. Josh Warrington is represented by the slick and shady you know, like Eddie Hearn, slick, shady, smack talking Eddie Hearn out of the UK and Matchroom Boxing. Shakur Stevenson fights on ESPN. Josh Warrington fights on DAZN, but they're champions in the same weight division. And Shakur Stevenson is very much interested in the fight with Josh Warrington. Now, Josh Warrington, although on the other hand, does not seem particularly inclined to fight Shakur Stevenson. And so this is what Shakur Stevenson had to say about Josh Warrington. He said that I used to think, and I'm paraphrasing here, I used to think that Josh Warrington, had a lot of heart, that he was a real champion and a real warrior that wanted to get into the ring with everybody, but he apparently doesn't want to fight me. I thought that the fight between me, this being Shakur Stevenson, between Shakur Stevenson, and Josh Warrington was the big fight at 126 pounds, but he doesn't want to fight me, who's a champion. He wants to fight this guy, Zhou Shao. I know I probably just killed this dude's name, but it's basically the WBA regular champion, a fighter out of Asia. If you know anything about the championship belts, you know that the WBA regular title is not really a title. The WBA title is a secondary belt. I think the WBA, I'm not sure who the WBA champion is at 126. The other champions of note, the only other champion of note and the true champion of note, in my opinion, in 126 pounds is Gary Russell Jr. That's who I think the man is at 126 pounds. So it even blows my mind that Shakur Stevenson would say that he thought the fight between Josh Warrington and himself was the fight at 126 pounds, unless by that he means that Shakur Stevenson can go over to the UK and, they can sell a lot of tickets in the UK for the fight between he and Josh Warrington, right? But as far as it being the most competitive fight, or the most interesting fight in the 126-pound division, man, I have no clue what Shakur Stevenson is thinking about. I would be super excited if he fought Gary Russell Jr. next, or Josh Warrington fought Gary Russell Jr. next. But you know what Gary Russell Jr. is? Gary Russell Jr. is the invisible man. For some reason, everywhere he goes, nobody can see him. But anyway, let's evaluate what it is that Shakur Stevenson says about Josh Warrington. I believe it. And it's not that I think that Josh Warrington doesn't have heart, right? I think that he has heart. I think he's a warrior. He's a fighter. I think everybody out there has got heart, has got courage, because they're in there throwing them hands with people that can end you. You know what I mean? So, but the problem with Josh Warrington is that Josh Warrington just can't beat Shakur Stevenson. It's a borderline mismatch. And I think Josh Warrington knows it. It's a mismatch. It's not a competitive fight. That's a one-sided shellacking between Shakur Stevenson and Josh Warrington. Josh Warrington is a good fighter. He's a tough fighter, but he's a come forward, aggressive fighter who does not particularly have fast hands. He's a skilled fighter, but he's not an excessively skilled fighter. And just the talent level between the two, the foot speed, the natural size. I think Shakur Stevenson's also significantly bigger. A bigger person than Josh Warrington. Josh Warrington is not a young fighter. Josh Warrington's been around for a while. Shakur Stevenson is new to the scene. And I think Shakur Stevenson eventually is going to get all the way up to lightweight, 126 to 130 to lightweight, and be a great champion in all of those divisions. It's just a flat out mismatch. And since it's a flat out mismatch, they don't want to take the fight. It's not that hard. That's not the business that they're in. It's not the business that Matchroom Boxing has been in since Matchroom Boxing had a champion go bust doing the exact same thing. And that was back in 2017 when Kell Brook, over the objections of Eddie Hearn, fought Errol Spence Jr. Now, that would tell you Eddie Hearn knows a little bit about boxing because he knew that was not a fight Kell Brook should have taken. But Kell Brook, who was at the very, now he's not the number one guy at that point for Matchroom. He's probably still safely the number two guy for Matchroom at that time. That was a little bit before Anthony Joshua beat Vladimir Klitschko, but it still was after he had beaten Charles Martin. He had become a unified champion. But Kell Brook was still, a very valuable commodity, definitely at 147 pounds because he still had the IBF belt. But he let a young American named Errol Spence Jr. go overseas, go into the UK and beat up and break Kell Brook. And I don't think Eddie Hearn has the stomach for that anymore. Because you're not seeing that anymore. You see him actively avoiding the Deontay Wilder fight. I don't care what happened with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. When the stuff was going on between Eddie Hearn and between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, Eddie Hearn did not want to make that fight. You can go to the interviews that were made by him on IFL TV a week after that fight happened, talking about the plan, the 8-fight plan, multi-year plan that he had for Anthony Joshua, and nowhere in it did it include the name of Deontay Wilder. So in the way that I look at it is, he didn't want that fight. And it panned out because he never did make that fight. A lot of conversations about making the fight, a lot of, offers that get there, that get snatched back off, that another offer that's there that sounds like the type of offer that you would make to somebody where you really want them to reject it. You know what I mean? Like if you're, Like if you have a sandwich and somebody says, can I get a bite? Oh, can I get a bite of your sandwich? Can I get a bite of your sandwich? I paid for the meat. I split the money on the cheese. Let me get a bite. And the guy takes a sandwich. He's like, you're right. You're absolutely right. You deserve a bite of this sandwich. Opens the sandwiches, pooey, spits right in it, and then hands it to him or licks the bread and gives it to him. You're like, man, come on, man. I don't want that sandwich. You basically giving them something that they say that they want, but giving it to them in a fashion where you know that they will reject it or believe that they would reject it. That's what they did with Deontay Wilder. And you see the same thing being repeated, I do believe, with Josh Warrington and Shakur Stevenson, because there was an exchange that took place between between the manager of Shakur Stevenson, Andre Ward, and Eddie Hearn, where Andre Ward responded to him, was like, look, you say that you made a solid offer to my fighter, but we don't think so. We don't think that's a solid offer. And if Shakur Stevenson's going to be going across the pond to fight somebody, that offer needs to be more than solid. But what do you have? You have Eddie Hearn out there on social media acting as if he's trying to make a fight, but then you have somebody from the opposing camp come back and say, man, that offer was we're not looking for something that's solid. We want to see something. We want something that is more than solid. We want something that is motivating, right? For us to go over to the UK to fight Josh Warrington. So in my book, I don't think Josh. It's not just Josh Warrington, because Josh Warrington. It's just a loss. Shakur Stevenson versus Josh Warrington is a loss for Josh Warrington. He's selling that belt if he takes that fight with Shakur Stevenson, and I don't care if it's in his mama's backyard. Right? It's just not going to happen. So, I don't necessarily think that it's something where Josh Warrington doesn't have a lot of heart. I don't think that it is. I just think that it's a fight that he can't win. I think it's a fight that his team knows he can't win. And as a result, those guys are going to try to keep that belt, and they're going to try to fight guys of a lesser caliber. However, I want to say the same thing about Shakur Stevenson and Josh Warrington about Gary Russell Jr., because the same might be true for Shakur Stevenson and Gary Russell Jr. Gary Russell Jr. he's just as talented. He's more skilled. He's just as talented. He's just as skilled, if not more skilled. And he has a lot more experience and know-how in the ring as a pro. And I don't think any of those guys want to fight him, and they're both ducking him in my book. Take that, New Jersey. Anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.